This episode of Grilled is sponsored by Rationale, your leading provider in multifunctional hot food preparation equipment. Register now for a free Rationale live demo at www.rationale-online.com.
The Staff Canteen now has its own shop, so you can get your hands on as much merch as you want. From mugs, t-shirts to these hoodies, which you'll see myself and any of the guests on our podcast wearing throughout. Go and take a look. The link is below, and please do give us a thumbs up if you do decide to purchase anything. Finally, we are giving away one hoodie per episode for the next 6 episodes. You can find out how to win at the end of this podcast.
Thank you for listening to Grilled, the Staff Canteen podcast. Cara has asked me to let everybody know that these podcasts may contain some swearing, some explicit language, and some topics not for the faint-hearted. No offence is intended, and please listen at your own discretion.
Welcome to Grilled.
I want to eat under roast whenever I want to eat under roast, not when you want me to eat it.
I just remember Brad's smell of his beard. You just had a biggest, fluffiest beard, and I was like, God, he smells so good. I don't know why, it's weird. Sometimes you put smell or something to it, and I just remember that. Well, it's a bit bizarre.
Why are you in your chef's white cellar? You're working.
I'm cooking burgers.
Oh, burgers. I hope they're not McDonald's.
And I just lash it all over the hot toast as it melts and quickly munch it up, crunchy, crunchy, munchy.
Dying to get like a piece of your culinary penis in or around their mouth.
Welcome to Grilled by the Staff Canteen. I'm Cara, editor of the Staff Canteen. And for the next 6 episodes, I have got a new co-host. Before I do that introduction, if this is your first time listening to Grilled, then we have plenty of episodes from previous co-hosts, so please do go and check those out. They include Michael O'Hare, Akhtar Islam, and Daniel Clifford. Right. He notoriously has no filter, but has assured me he is now a pussycat these days. So let's hope he's not too tame. But as I am looking forward to chatting with him and his 6 chosen guests. Alex Claridge from the Wilderness, welcome to Grilled.
Thanks for having me. Very brave of you, really. But
yeah, well, I hope you don't disappoint. So, how are you?
Yeah, I'm good, thanks. I'm glowing. I think everyone in the industry right now is basically a raisin. What a delicious heat wave. What a wonderful time to be over a stove. But no, otherwise, glad to be back. All jokes aside, I think slightly beaten from the last couple of years, really. But they say what doesn't kill you just makes you more bitter and resentful. So back with positive mental attitude and all that.
Brilliant. So this is our first podcast of 6 together, and I know you've got plenty of topics that you want to discuss, but please first introduce your first guests and tell us why you wanted them on the podcast with you.
Our guest today, I last got to see before the world fell apart. When we were both doing Great British Menu. He did a lot better than me, which was annoying because if his fish course had been rubbish, I might have stood a chance of at least surviving to mains, but he wasn't very kind. He went ahead and did a really good fish course, and that was that. But, Dom needs, for me, no introduction. I think the way he looks at food is everything that I don't know, that for me, when I was, first entering the industry, I wanted it to be, passionate, stubborn. I'm sure he'll agree with that. And very single-minded around what he wants to do. And, with him choosing to close, a successful 1-star concept to do something which he really loves, like that takes balls. And I was about to say, and I love to see it, but I'm not sure I want that particular cadence. I think he is very much writing his own story, very much does things his own way. And from my experience, getting to hang out with him at Great British Menu, which definitely does push you to some interesting places, just a real human, which meant a lot to me then. And they're excited to hear what he's up to, what he's up to next, really.
Brilliant. Well, Dom Robinson, welcome to Grilled. What an intro.
I know, right? Talk about pampering my ego. It doesn't need any. I don't need any help from anyone else to inflate it. Thank you very much for having me on. Thank you, Alex, for asking me, and Cara. It's a pleasure to be here.
Well, we are very much looking forward to it. How are you, Dom? How are you doing?
I'm good. I'm having a couple of days off, and the weather's been very kind. So yeah, I've just been kind of plodding along, really doing my thing, getting ready to reopen in September. So yeah, life's good. I can't complain. I'm
Good.
Still here, so it's like a blessing in itself.
It comes to something when that's what we all say when people ask us how we are, isn't it?
Still here. I'm still alive. I would say still sane, but that's not strictly speaking true. But I'm possibly more sane than I was before the world came to an end with COVID and all that shit. But yeah, I'm all good.
Good. And obviously we're going to talk about your projects and stuff going forward. But before we do that, I'm going to ask a few icebreakers to you both. Just a bit of fun. First thing that comes into your head. So all you've got to do is pick a number, and the number has a question next to it. So Dom, you want to go first? 1 to 6.
1, obviously.
1. Okay. Which chef said this? Voluptuous as my testicles are, I lost that fight, and when I came back, I lost it again.
I've got no idea.
It is actually the lovely Alex Claridge.
When did I?
Look at your face.
I mean, that's worrying, isn't it?
Do you not remember?
I have zero recollection of referring to my testicles.
Well, it was from one of your first interviews with the Staff Canteen, actually. It was your Britain's Got Talent feature. So.
Well, it's good to know that I was a prick.
I love that you just don't even remember.
It's all blocked out. It's all blocked out, man. Over the years, you just forget the dumb things you say when you don't really have a clue. Well, there's my epitaph written. That can go on the tombstone.
You can have that one. Right, pick me a number.
3.
What would be the easiest thing for you to give up?
Do you know what? Carbs. Yeah, probably carbs. That's such a boring answer, isn't it? But over lockdown, whenever I kind of, whenever I eat bread, I just feel really lethargic afterwards. And I'm not going to, go down the route of, I think I'm gluten free because I'm not an Instagram influencer. But yeah, like carbs.
Okay, I'm going with carbs.
That was terrible. I'm so sorry.
We've got 6 of these to do, Alex. Dom, give me a number.
5.
Okay, so I've got another of these. Which chef said this? I'm a dinosaur who still makes bechamel sauce, so what the fuck do I know?
Said that.
You did. You definitely did.
I still stand by that today. It's never a true word. Yeah, that's definitely me.
Well done. Alex?
6 then, yeah, go on.
What's the most ridiculous fact that you know?
So when I was younger, I was kind of quite into Latin. So I know quite a lot of Latin names for fish, because I was also into fish keeping, which I know. Yeah, there you go. I wish I didn't, but yeah, all the different Latin names and the kind of genus and stuff for most domesticated fish.
Brilliant. I mean, this is so much more insightful than I thought it would be.
I love it, man. I love fish keeping. I love fishing. I love proper Zen, man.
Brilliant. One thing you never knew about Alex Claridge. There you go. And the final one is, Dom, if you could be a fly on the wall, who would you want to listen in on?
A fly on the wall. Bloody hell. Probably Matt Hancock and Boris Johnson when he got caught on camera, snogging his secretary. I reckon that would have been, mortifyingly awkward for the guy. I do, I can just imagine, you might, oh, by the way, mate, there's a camera in your office and you've been caught snogging your secretary and violating the social distancing rules that you made. I mean, horrendous. You got
what an amazing conversation to hear.
Well, yeah, I mean, you got a feel for the guy. You know, he made some mistakes, but getting rumbled and getting it on camera and then on video in the Sun newspaper is pretty much the worst place you can get found out about something. You know, so I reckon that would have been a little bit of an awkward. Not that I like relishing in other people's discomfort, of course, but I think it would have been pretty uncomfortable, to be honest. You know.
Yeah, a fly on that wall. I think that's a pretty good one.
Yeah.
Right, Dom, let's talk to you about the Blackbird, because I know when me and Alex have had a chat before this, that's one of the things that we want to talk about. And so when you spoke to us about closing at the time, you said that I don't have to be all things to all people anymore.
Yeah.
So let's go from there.
What, being all things to all people?
Yeah.
Well, yeah, I mean, when I opened, I chose to open up, my background was restaurants. I did some gastropub and stuff in London, after I'd finished at Tom Aiken's. My life and, my heart and soul is in restaurants, but kind of I went into, opening, the Blackbird, and part of it is the fact that we could live upstairs, which is obviously really handy with the kids and stuff like that. But I think, I was conflicted. I've always had a bit of imposter syndrome. I only kind of realized this and discovered this a lot myself since I got into recovery, but I never really had, I was never honest with myself enough to say, okay, well, you don't necessarily want to be cooking your food in a pub. There's nothing wrong with doing that, and there's nothing wrong with wanting to cook high level food in a pub, but I was always conflicted by it. And it just never really worked. I was trying to push the food, I was trying to do a certain thing, and it always caused me a bit of angst that that I was doing it in a pub environment. It never quite gelled. It didn't gel for the customers, it didn't gel for me. And it's only since, obviously, I've been on quite a journey the last couple of years, that I can finally turn around and say, okay, well, I need to kind of back myself, I went into it thinking, okay, well, I need the drinking revenue, I need this, I need that, I need to, but, I lost sight of the fact that, at the end of the day, there's no point, if I can't cook the food I want to cook on my terms, and, there is no real point in doing it for me, So, yeah, I mean, luckily I've got Pizza Paloma next door, so that ticks the boxes for the cyclists and the dog walkers and the families, because there's a lot around here, and obviously you want to give those people a service. And I have that to tick all those boxes. So now that just left me with, a question of, okay, so do I want to reopen? I wasn't sure what I was going to do, Do I reopen the Blackbird and go all casual and, try and have a nice life? But, I don't want to be, I appreciate all kinds of food and I love cooking, but there's a certain kind of food that I want to cook for me, And, I realised that even if I did open and make it all gastropub, I was still going to be doing the hours and still working my arse off. Number one, I couldn't afford to employ a head chef, that was going to, everything would be cooked from scratch. I couldn't afford to employ a head chef that was going to do that. Plus, there's probably not one out there anyway, because there's no fucking staff, So I thought, okay, so I can do two things. I can keep the Blackbird open as doing my food, but I'm always going to be conflicted with doing it in a pub environment, because that's not what I want. Or I can make the Blackbird all casual, but I'm still going to be doing the hours, but I'm going to be making Scotch eggs and fucking sausage rolls, which I fucking hate making. It's not what I wanted to do. Or I can just close it and open it with a new name. And it took me a long time to come to that. I didn't force that. I didn't force that decision. I just let the answers come to me as they always do. I do a lot of stuff to do with my, my spiritual side these days. And, these answers, if I wait for them, they always come. Not always at the speed my ego wants them to come, but they do always come. And that was the answer at the end of the day. In order to sort of get rid of any crossover that I had, I made a lot of mistakes at the Blackbird. We did the whole thing with the takeaway and stuff like that. I had a lot of trouble in lockdown, mostly due to my horrendous behaviour, when I was in the last grips of my alcoholism, addiction and stuff. I had problems with the police and licensing and the neighbours, all due to my, my pig-headedness and my selfishness, to be honest. So I thought, the only way I can get rid of all that crossover and all those negative connotations, and also some of the negative things in my mind from the past, was to just draw a line under it and start again, and it's not taking away from anyone, that wants to cook in that environment, not taking away, my favorite meal, is chips, battered sausage and mushy peas. I love it. You take me to a greasy spoon for a fry pan, I'm happy. But for me, the food that I want to cook in the environment that I want to cook it, I want fucking tablecloths. I don't want fucking, beer pumped on the bar. It's not what I want. There's nothing wrong with that, but for me, it's not what I want, So I made the decision, I'm going to be working my arse off anyway, so I might as well just risk it and do something that I love.
That's the bravery, right?
I didn't really see it as brave. People say, oh, you're brave, you're sacrificing your Michelin-Star, but it's not about that for me. It's about being happy and being true to myself, and getting a chance to try and, to try and win it back again. I only ever cooked the food that I wanted to cook, and I just wanted to cook food that tastes delicious and looked beautiful on the plate. And I'm just very happy that Michelin, judged it to be worthy to go in their guide. And, I'd like to do the same again, but I'm just going to get in and get my head down and cook. And that's what I'm going to do,
It's interesting when you talk about that kind of discomfort, when even if it's not necessarily food, in that experience you're offering, that isn't really what you want. Like, that resonates for me. I think, for the brief period of time I was involved in the second venue, like, the entire thing came unstuck because of that. I think if you're not being like 100% authentic, I think it will find expression, and it can find expression anywhere, right? I suspect there's a lot of chefs, even chefs, who, like you and I, own their own restaurant. There's that constant little kind of, whatever it is, anger, negativity, like frustration kind of lives in them, that's actually arising from, from that, these obstacles we make, right? That kind of, self-imposed obstacles where you're like, no, I couldn't do that. I couldn't be 100% authentic. But, I kind of feel like lockdown, clearly for you, but in its own way, I found that space, which at times was unbearable, but that space to kind of think and kind of reflect. I kind of think like it was so needed for a lot of us to work out, well, what am I doing it for?
It was, the whole lockdown thing, it essentially saved my life, to be honest. Like I didn't have any accountability, or I didn't have any any routine. I was doing the takeaway, I was finishing early, starting later, and it kind of accelerated my drinking and my drug use to an unmanageable point very, very quickly, after years and years of skirting between the, before the line of full-blown alcoholism and addiction, and coming out the other end of it. It just helped me to realize, okay, so in order not to have that confliction and that resentment, then I need to be true to myself. I at the end of the day, if honestly speaking, if I'm cooking nice food, and then I'm getting a load of muddy dog walkers and cyclists coming in while I'm trying to cook nice food, and I'm going to get resentment about that, and for someone like me, that's going to be a killer. It's going to eat me up inside. So the only way was to take that out of the equation. And it is about being true to yourself at the end of the day, and being honest. At the end of the day, I had a similar experience in Dubai. I was doing a couple of venues in Dubai. I was trying to, when I went out there, I was trying to do my food, and it was in like a restaurant that turned into a club, and they'd be pumping the tunes at 10 o'clock at night mid-service, and we were like, turn the fucking music down, we can't hear the fucking service. It's an open kitchen, and it was the same, and that just tore me up inside. And then I came straight from Dubai and tried to do that here. I didn't have the balls, and I didn't have the honesty with myself to say, you're not going to be happy doing this. People pleasing, do this to keep everyone happy, and then forget about what you actually want to do. The reason I do this job, the reason I cook, it's not a job for me. The reason I cook, it's not for the fucking money. It's not for the lifestyle. The money's shit, and, when you own your own restaurant, it's not a great lifestyle straight away. You have to work hard. The reason I do it is because I love cooking. And that's it. It's in me. It's what I do. It's a natural, instinctive feeling for me to do, and it's the only thing that I can ever do, and it's my first love. So in order for that, to be right in my soul, that has to be on terms that's not going to cause me resentment. It's not going to cause me any self-doubt. So I think it wasn't a brave. I don't see it as a brave move. Closing the Michelin-Star restaurant down and opening up with nothing and start again. It wasn't a brave move. It was just me facing up to what I actually want to do,
Yeah, and obviously listening to you makes total sense. But I imagine most people's, which you touched on, initial reaction is, why would you do that? You've got these accolades, and this, what from the outside perceived as what a lot of chefs, that's what they want. So a lot of people's reactions must have been, why why would you do that?
Yeah, I did get a lot, but I've always been quite open about, getting a star was my lifelong ambition, and I'm an addict, I use other things to fill the hole that was in my soul, it doesn't matter whether it's relationships, going to the gym, alcohol, drugs. I thought getting a Michelin star, that would be the thing that would fix me, that's going to fix the hole in the soul, getting that star. And I've been very open about it. When I got the star, it didn't make me any happier. I'd got a family, I was married, I had beautiful children, and then I got the Michelin star. All these things that I said, okay, I'll get that, then I'll be happy. I'll get that, then I'll be happy. I'll get that, then I'll be happy. None of it fucking made me happy, But that was more to do with me being an addict than anything else. So now it's like, although now I feel proud. I didn't feel proud at the time, Now I feel very proud that we opened and basically no money, on a wing and a prayer, and just cooked our food, and we got a star in 11 months. I'm super proud of that, but I wasn't at the time. But I was in a very different place mentally at the time. I didn't have the benefit of being in recovery, And that's a big part of it, to be honest. So yeah, I mean, now people say, "Oh, you must be mad sacrificing." I'm not sacrificing anything, because if and when I do, manage to get a Michelin star again, that's up to the Michelin guide whether my food is good enough to do that. If and when that does happen, and I will be in a headspace where I can actually look at this and think, "Fucking hell, I did something good there." And that wasn't the case before. So actually a fresh start and trying to do it again with the headspace that I have now is, I'm buzzing about that. I find that really exciting. I didn't get any, obviously I'm nervous about whether the restaurant's going to work financially, whether I'm going to have enough money for these chairs, that painting, etc., etc. Yeah, obviously I think about those things. But there has never been any worry or stress at any point in time about, about handing back the star, at all. Well, not handing back the star. You can't do that. Closing a starred restaurant and opening something else off from scratch that will have no accolades. That because I, have the benefit of living a life in a different way than I used to. That was never in the forefront of my mind. I never thought to myself, it's a massive risk. It is, but it didn't it didn't come into my brain like that at all.
I guess there's bigger risk though. Right, like there's bigger risks. Like the biggest risk is fundamentally like happiness. Like I think it's so easy to get lost in it all. It's so easy to kind of get, as you say, like, oh, if we could just do this, just get this accolade, just do this, it will make it'll make things okay.
Yeah, this is it. Chasing the dream. I've been doing that my whole life. I've lived all around the world. I've cooked all around the world. I've tried to use many different things to kind of make me feel whole, but nothing ever did. And the Michelin star was the kind of jewel in the crown of the things that I thought would make me happy, and it didn't. That's not taking anything away from winning the star. It's an amazing achievement, and I'm very proud that we did that today. But and I spoke to Michelin about this, and at the end of the day, my headspace at the time, I was just like, okay, I've got this thing that I've wanted since I was literally 16 years old, and I finally got it after 20 years, and I'm just fucking numb,
I think so, but I don't know. I think it's important for these discussions to happen because you know that everything you're describing, and you describe it, the fact that as part of your recovery, you can take ownership and you can recognize it. Now, that's testament to what recovery can do. But that there's going to be more chefs than, we can count on two hands who are in exactly the same cycle of belief that somehow externalities, external validation will bring comfort, will kind of assuage. I think kitchens for a very long time being a place that we'll retreat to, right? Like that's always been, if I don't know what else to do, even at 3 a.m, like if I don't know what else to do, I used to be, I'd go into work.
Yep.
And I think, it really resonates with me, that idea of sort of like, stop looking for external validation, stop thinking that anything other than yourself can actually kind of soothe that, because
exactly,
you can end up throwing everything at it, and it can be worse, I think, because I do think there's a disconnect still outside of the industry. I think people look at, they believe that, oh, it must be a really good lifestyle. It's not, in my own ways, in my own kind of, at times, places I've been to that I wish I hadn't. I suspect that most people who've kind of been on this journey will resonate with that. What worries me is that I know a lot of guys will still be in that kind of thought, that thought space. And I suppose, that kind of, that ties in perhaps in part to, the industry's under, there's a lot more discussion around this than I've ever seen before. How many kind of patterns of behavior, how many kind of similar situations have to arise before you kind of go, we need to think differently, right? Just like you're doing now, but we need to think differently about what we're doing this for and how we're doing it, because it's clearly not making that many people happy. And that's not to take away from the fact that, I was saying to Cara the other day, like, when you're back in service, particularly after that long away from it, and you're cooking food, you see people enjoying it, like, that is a buzz, that's a kick. I think actually, you're right, maybe brave is the wrong word, maybe it's necessary, but maybe necessary goes as far as, like, we all need to kind of find different ways of talking about this, and different ways of thinking about why we're doing it.
Dom, obviously you've mentioned like addictions. Is that something you're happy to talk about? I just said, is that a product of the industry, or do you think you just have that's your personality and that probably would have happened anyway?
Yeah, I'm more than happy to talk about it. I'm an addict, I'm an alcoholic. It's if you in any kind of recovery circles, there's different opinions. I think I was born this way. I was always restless, irritable, discontent. I was a fucking alcoholic before I even picked up a drink. It's that the hole in the soul. It's when you meet people in recovery, we talk to each other a lot, obviously, and we all, there's many different walks of life and different kinds of people. But we all, the stories you hear, there's similarities between every story, and obviously, I don't think the industry helps, to be honest. I think it's a breeding ground. Since I got sober, and obviously, as you know, I've always been very open about it. I don't give a shit who knows. It's who I was, and that's been a big part of my recovery, has been honest about the person that I was and the person that I'm trying to be today. But yeah, I don't think it helps. I mean, if you think about an industry where, basically, if you're the biggest drinker or the biggest cokehead, it's a good thing, and it's like, drinking in the kitchen, beers after work, getting smashed, drink in the morning to sort yourself out. I mean, someone like me never had a chance, but equally, I think it's rife in so many other industries. So I don't think you can really blame the industry. Certainly it's not a helpful environment, but if you work on a building site, it's everywhere. If you work in an office, you're down the pub and, after work, lunchtime beers, etc., etc. So I think, it's a progressive illness. If you have it in you, in my opinion, this is from my personal experience, I think it's going to progress anyway, no matter what you do. Mm-hmm. It's like I believe I was born this way from what I've learned in my very short, I'm only a year and a bit sober, so I know nothing as regards, but I do know about my own personal journey and my own personal recovery. So I had this in me, the more I've learned about myself and the more I've looked into my past and looked into how I used to feel and what I used to do to try and make myself feel better, whether it be moving overseas, getting a new job, substance use, substance abuse, cooking, it doesn't really matter. It's all these, it's using, outside things to try and fill that void, it's we describe it as a spiritual malady, you're spiritually sick, and that's not necessarily about, anything to do with religion. It's just, what it is, it's World Health Organization classified, it's a disease, we have a disease, people like me. yeah, so I think it was always in me at the end of the day. And cooking was something, you know, I was the short kid at school. I was a fat kid at school. You know, I was shit at sport. I couldn't talk to girls. You know, I went to college, and all of a sudden I go to this catering college. And all of a sudden, there's something that I can do. I can cook, and you know, putting that chef's jacket on. You know, when outside of the kitchen, you know, when I wasn't, you know, drunk or whatever, which is, you know, not very often in the last years. You know, but you know, I'd be very timid. I wouldn't be able to talk to people. I would literally cross the street, you know, to avoid someone that I knew in town or whatever. And that was like that my whole life. But, you know, put a drink in me or some drugs in me and I'm a different person. And equally put me in the kitchen and put that chef's jacket on and you're in my world, you know, like, especially when you move up the ranks, you know, I was a head chef when I was 26, you know, so, you know, that, you know, it's my rules, it's my world, you know, that chef's jacket is like a fucking suit of armor and it changes the way you feel. You know, and that's what addiction and alcoholism is all about. It's using other things to change the way that you feel, in a nutshell. And I've always been very open about it. You know, it's something that that needs to be talked about more because more people need to know that there is an answer out there.
Yeah.
Sorry, Cara. I can see your setup, and we both.
That's okay.
So one of the things I wrangle with as an employer as well as my own sanity, is, do you feel like, and not to take away from personal accountability and personal ownership, because I don't think you can get better without that. Do you think there's more that the industry should be doing, knowing that it's kind of a petri dish for, you know, for triggers, for opportunity, for all the rest of it?
Everyone has their own personal view on it. You know, there is obviously a lot of mental health chat around the industry these days, and, you know, various charities here and there and various, you know, I have to be very careful with I don't have to be careful with my wording at all. There obviously is quite a lot of stuff to do with mental health in the industry these days, various charities. In my opinion, not enough of it is angled towards addiction. Because it is rife in the industry. It's absolutely rife. You know, there's not enough of it, you know, but it's all about being honest with yourself. So, you know, if someone's not capable of being honest with themselves, then, you know, there's, you know, yeah, it's a progressive illness and you get to a certain point where, you know, some people do. Luckily, I'm one of those where, you know, you get desperate enough to want to change. And it's a big change to make. It's a complete life change, you know, being in recovery. It really is. So yeah, I definitely think that there should be a little bit more focus from maybe some of the kind of, there's no official charities, but I think there should be more focus. I think it is coming to the forefront more. This is why I'm always very open about it. It's been on my social media. Everyone, you know, I'll tell anyone about my story. You know, I've done interviews about it. You know, I really don't care, you know, what people think of me, or, you know, the person I was in the kitchen, you know, is not, you know, and in my normal life, I wasn't a nice person, you know. You know, it is what it is, and it's not an excuse. I'm not saying, oh, I'm an alcoholic and addict, so therefore that's the reason why I'm an arsehole, and that makes it okay because I'm not drinking anymore. But, you know, the person I was in the past, you know, that doesn't define who I am today. So this is why I've been very open about my struggles and very open about the person that I was, you know, which is not very nice, you know. And that's by sharing it. Hopefully that'll give other people, you know, some, you know, identification with it, thinking, oh shit, I feel like that, fucking hell, I do that, you know, maybe I've got a problem, maybe I need to do something about it, you know. So I think, you know, a lot of people are more open about it now. I see a lot more on social media about it now, people saying, yeah, you know, this, I've done this, I've struggled with drink, I've struggled with drugs, etc. And I think the more people are open about it, the less stigma there will be about it.
Of course.
Yeah.
Is that one of the reasons why you wanted to do the book?
Yeah, well, yeah, why not? Yeah. I mean, I met Andy, and when I did an interview with him when I came out of rehab, you know, when I was about 30 days sober, I think it was. And I did an interview with him, and then the book came from there. So the book is kind of my stories in there, you know, all the nitty gritty in there. It's not pleasant reading. It's quite uncomfortable. So the narrative in the front, you know, and then you know, there's an expression of me on the plate in it and the recipes as well, you know. So it's kind of got a bit of everything in there. It's not just a cookbook, you know. There is essentially my story in there of, I won't say rise and fall, because it's not like I became fucking emperor or anything, but, you know, certainly, you know, how I progressed in my career, and then how it all came tumbling down as a result of, you know, my disease, you know, and my behavior. And it was about, you know, owning my shit to a certain extent, which I found very, very, very healing. You know, it was, you know, a massive part of being honest with myself and being honest with other people, you know, because people can gossip about you, people can badmouth you, fair enough. But if you put it all out there and tell everyone, basically in my case, tell everyone what an arsehole I was, tell everyone what's happened to me, then, you know, number one, people can say whatever they want, you know, because there is no skeletons in the closet because I put it all out there already, you know. Yeah. And also, you know, anyone who does identify with it, you know, I had a lot of messages, you know, on social media and stuff saying, you know, thanks for sharing that, you know, I've struggled this and that. And it's all about, you know, passing it on to someone else and trying to see other people get well. For me, that's a huge part of recovery, you know, it's passing a message on that there is an answer. You know, you don't have to live in, and it's a fucking miserable existence. It really is, you know, but it doesn't have to be like that. You know, it's great to be in recovery. It's great to be sober today. And it, you know, it's just a bridge to a normal life. It helps me be the best person I can be on a daily basis. And sometimes, yeah, sometimes my head still does go back up my arse on a regular basis, you know. But then now I'm honest with myself enough. If I'm short with someone at work, or, you know, with the kids or my wife, you know, now I notice straight away and I apologize for it. You know, I'm sorry I was a bit rude, or I'm sorry, you know, like, you know, delivery drivers, you know, I might snap at a delivery, not snap at it. I might get a delivery driver who's a bit pissed off because he's just giving me a 100-kilo delivery and it's fucking 30 degrees outside. And rather than having an argument with him, I just give him a can of Coke, you know. You know, like it happened. I rang the veg supplier up the other day, you know, and they sent me some herbs that were a bit moody, and, you know, he was on the phone and he gave me, you know, he said, the night manager, you know, left and stuff like that. And to be honest, you know, they sent me a couple of deliveries that were a bit dodgy herbs, and you know, I was a little bit short with him, to be honest, and he was really apologetic, but I was a bit short, and, you know, because I live my life this way, I felt bad about it, so I messaged him and apologized. You know, it's about owning your shit, you know, and saying sorry, rather than my previous life, you know, I would have resentment towards someone for a perceived wrong against me, or jealousy of someone else's kitchen or this and that. And that would just build into resentment, you know. But now I have the ability to be honest with myself. Okay, you were out of order. You've been an arsehole. Have some fucking balls and apologize for it, and draw a line under it.
For people that don't know, was there a defining moment when you realized you couldn't keep going the way that you were going and that you needed to make this change?
Yeah, it was also just one night a friend came to see me. He was in recovery. I'd already been talking to him about, you know, the fact that I think I had a problem. I talked to my psychologist about it. So he suggested that I try and do some 12-step recovery work or something like that. And my drinking was just escalating. It got to a point where I physically could not stop drinking, you know, in the morning, you know, and popping Valium to just try and calm my nerves. And I physically could not stop, you know. And yeah, I remember just one night, just, you know, drinking to blackout, waking up, you know, the next day I called my mate, and then I spent the whole next day just drinking to try and, you know, calm the shakes that I had DTs and stuff like that from alcohol withdrawal. And I was drinking all day, and then we were still doing takeaway. The guy, I went upstairs, collapsed on my bed in the middle of the day. The guys helping with the takeaway, they did all the takeaway, you know, on their own, you know, cleared up the whole pub. I woke up in an empty pub at 10 o'clock at night, you know, with my shift watch still on my bed, not remembering what happened throughout the day. And that was it. I thought, I can't do this anymore. You know, I was done. I was just done. You know, that was it. I couldn't do it anymore. Okay. And it was rapid, you know, from 20 years of, you know, drug and alcohol use, misuse and abuse, you know, binge drinking, you know, alcoholically, yeah, but periods of sobriety, and, you know, then, but never been able to stop, and never, one drink never been enough. That was my thing, you know, it was never enough. You know, if I had a pint after work, I'd have to have 2 or 3 pints, and, you know, and then, you know, a couple of, you know, whiskeys to take the edge off. And I was just saying, I need to take the edge off, I need to relax, but I was just justifying it. But it progressed very rapidly to a point where I was a 24/7 drinker. And yeah, I just reached that point. I just snapped, an internal snap, and I just couldn't do it anymore. And it was the best day of my life. You know, it really was. You know, it was that the gift of desperation. I was just desperate for it to end.
For people listening, like, to this, that obviously you said, is it a year that you said that you've been in recovery?
Yeah, I'm a year and a month. So year and a month. Yeah, it's actually, is it, what day is this today? Yeah, so yeah, I'm a year and a month actually. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, congratulations on that, because that is obviously absolutely amazing considering what you said about how you were before. So, and what would you say to people maybe listening to this? Like, would you say, you know, you can do it, but obviously they've got to, I suppose they're all going to have to hit their own kind of point, aren't they?
Yeah, they are, but it's about willingness, and it's about just, you know, you need to realize that there is help out there for you, you know.
Yeah.
You know, there is help out there, and you just need to sort of, you know, reach out. You know, there's plenty of people, you know, anyone watching this, you know, thinks they've got a problem, you know, or wants to talk about it, you know, just send me a message on Instagram or whatever, and I'll call you. It's as simple as that. You know, there is help out there. There are hotlines you can call. You know, you've got various recovery fellowships, NA, CAAA. You know, there are hotline numbers that you can call and talk to someone about it. There is help out there, and there'll be, you know, a massive amount of help for you. The thing is that you don't have to do it on your own. Mm-hmm. And addiction is it's a disease that wants you on your own. It wants you isolated, and you don't have to do it on your own. This is the thing. So if anyone does watch this and they're worried about the amount of drugs or alcohol they take, you know, just, you know, send me a message and I'll call you. It's as simple as that. You know, you don't have to do it on your own. That's the message that I'll give. You have to be willing. You have to want it. But at the same time, it's not something that you need to do on your own.
I think that's a pretty powerful message. Just as simple as a conversation to start it. Congratulations on the recovery, but I think wanting to share it so other people can kind of get to that point faster, I think that's spot on, you know, and I think that level of honesty is probably what the industry needs to, you know, as you say, like the generic stuff, right? Kind of, that's not downplaying that it's useful, but like generic mental health messaging around, you know, be kinder or all that sort of thing. Like, I feel like big actions, like been totally like blunt, like this is my story, this is what you do. I suspect that's what will help people.
I mean, yeah, there is all the mental health charities in the industry are great. Don't get me wrong, that it's perfect, and it is, more people are coming out. Obviously, there's a couple of big name chefs that have done stuff, you know, about their drug and alcohol problems that, you know, I'm sure everyone knows. And this is it. The more people that come out about it, and the more people that discuss it, you know, the easier it's going to be for those you know, guys that are finishing work and going home and smashing 12 cans and then getting up and doing it the next day, or a bottle of vodka, which there are many, and I used to do that, and there are still guys, and you know, those guys will know that other people have been through it, and you know, it's not something you need to do alone. Well,
I think, and talking about it, like you said, obviously that is how you break the stigma. So, you know, I really, really appreciate you being honest about it. And like you said, like Alex said, it's, you know, listening to you, it's you know, it's really insightful. It's interesting to hear your story. Shall we talk about cooking?
Yeah.
Shall we talk about obviously your kind of, how did you put it, Alex? Rejecting the new school. I know that's on your list of things to chat about. So, what would you like to ask Dom?
I mean, I think Dom's, you know, honest in everything. He's honest about the kind of food he wants to cook, but you know, even more so with kind of Renaissance, and like with this kind of total commitment to just sort of like just cooking, you know, food that is classic for a reason. You know, Dom's always said, like, from, you know, the first time I met him, like, you know, he's a saucier through and through, right? Like, in an industry where, you know, and I've had to try and navigate my place in it, you know, like, I've done all the stuff where you go through kind of using lots of kind of modernist techniques and like technique over flavor and all the traps that I think are readily available. I guess really, I always love hearing like anyone talk about something they're passionate about. I kind of suppose that I'm just interested in terms of Renaissance. I mean, obviously it has the best plateware I've ever seen. So there's definitely a question around where the hell he's finding these gems. Definitely, like, you know, what Dom's interpretation is of kind of keeping it classic. Why that food's the food that quite clearly you're in a passionate relationship with. You and that food have found each other, like, you know.
Yeah. Well, you know, obviously, yeah. I mean, I kind of have come full circle. You know, I've done a lot of modernist techniques and all that kind of stuff. You know, it started out as a necessity, if I'm 100% honest, you know. that's what, I've said that before. I opened my own restaurant. I was used to having 20 odd boys in the kitchen, etc., etc. I thought, okay, so it's going to be me and one other person. Renee was she started with me as a commie. She still works for me, and it was only us two in the kitchen. I thought, okay, well, if I want to cook the food that I want to cook, I need to do it, as simply as is necessary, but as perfect as possible, if you know what I mean. And that involved keeping it simple and going back to basics. So I just started, doing all the dishes from, when I was 18 years old. I'm classically trained, and my first head chef, Max, was a German guy, but he worked in Paris, so it was, French classical food, some European recipes we used to use as well. We used to do some, world stuff in there. People have been using international ingredients for years. So, it's like, but the technique, it was what it was about, I couldn't afford, I was doing loads of water bathing and all that kind of stuff in Dubai and all this stuff. I couldn't afford a water bath. I couldn't afford a backpack machine, all this kind of stuff. So it started out as necessity, back to basics. And that was it. And I just kind of got caught up in the storm of it and just completely fell in love with it, which I always did, but I kind of, if you look at my food, and for instance, the stuff I was doing in Dubai, it was a lot of international food. Like I said, there was loads of chemicals and green oil and all that kind of stuff involved, and all that kind of stuff. Obviously no foraging out there in the desert, but a bit of everything else. So it started out as necessity, and then it just grew into something that I've always loved it. It just reminded me of when I was a kid, 16, 17, 18, just my first job in the library. We had a library of books in one of the rooms of the hotel, and it was just, it was Nico and Marco and Le Claire books and all that kind of stuff. And it's just sparked something in me. It really did. And I just love it. Ironically, I don't eat French food that often when I'm actually eating, which you may find quite surprising. I eat a lot of Asian food and stuff like that. If it's a nice day, I'll just do a barbecue. But to cook, for me, that I always said, for me, cooking begins and ends in France. In my personal opinion, I have done a lot of bashing about fermenting and tweezers, and that was in the peak of my narcissist phase. I wasn't sober at that point, with all that stuff, and that there was obviously a lot of resentment there, and kind of just meat jealousy and stuff like that, and that was all on my part. It's pretty much now banter. I've got loads of friends who do different style of food to me, and I like all kinds of food, to be honest. It just became kind of my thing, bashing tweezers and stuff like that on Twitter and stuff like that. I don't know, it was just kind of because it was like social media adoration I always craved, I think it was. But at the end of the day, now I'm in a different place now, where I'm accepting of what everyone else does, and it's great. But in my heart, I just love, I worked in France, in the south of France, doing some seasons in a villa, and it's still that passion and that kind of love for French ingredients, French food, just the techniques. I just love it. I love it. I get emotional. When I'm going out, when I'm braising something, or making like snails persillade or something, I could cry. I love it. I just love it. I can't explain it. It's a whole fascination with the whole process. It's just what I love, and there are other people, plenty of people who are passionate about different things, like the whole kind of stuff with cultures and the fermentation and foraging and stuff, which is great. They're really into that stuff. But for me, what it is classical techniques. And it's just, for me, getting to sort of keep doing these recipes that were done 20, 30 years ago. It's a reminder of, I think for me, it's a reminder of why I fell in love with this in the first place. I remember going to the library at college and opening White Heat, and that changed my life. I was like, fucking hell, this guy's like a rock star, and his food fucking looks visually absolutely beautiful. And it's these recipes that, and he's talking about, learning it in this kitchen and that kitchen. And it was the whole kind of, rock star image in the camera, and it just captured something, and it just sparked something in me. It was a way out of the place that I was in, and it was something that I could do and something that I could belong to, I think. So yeah, I just love it. I just love classical cuisine. I like, like I said, I don't, go out and eat classical French food very often at all, but if I'm going to cook, that's what I'm going to cook, and it is what it is,
How do you think your food style will have evolved from, say, the food at the Blackbird, which still had your DNA on it, right? But
yeah, no, it'll be the same food. I've written a couple of menus. It's if anything, it'll be slightly, maybe slightly more classical. I'm interested. I've not really we opened again in October for a month, and we opened in December for 3 weeks. But I've pretty much done 7 weeks of cooking since I got sober, so it'll be interesting to see. I can't wait to cook again and see. I felt different when I was cooking this time. I didn't feel like I'd lost. I was a bit worried. I was like, can I do this if I'm not, getting pissed at the bar doing my mise en place list every night and getting that fury in me, and then wake up in the morning and doing it all over again? Am I going to be the same? And is it going to do something to my I don't want to sound too pompous, my creative spark? Will it do something to my imagination? Will it take some of my passion? But it didn't. It felt different in a good way. I felt more switched on, more focused, more, certainly less forgetful, and everything's so much fucking easier when you're not hungover every day, That's a fact, So I was like, it's true. So
I don't think either of us would disagree with you there.
Yeah, exactly. So when I'm used to doing that every day of my life, the last God knows how long when I've been when I was cooking at the Blackbird, the foods, I'll still do. I'll still do bon femme. I'll still do, Veronique. I'll still do the old school desserts that I love to do. Making bar. But it's just important for me that these recipes are still made and still carried on. It's just. I just see it as my duty to kind of do it. But now I don't see it in a way that everyone else's food is inferior and I need to fucking bash everyone who's not doing French food, because that was just me being a bit of a twat, really, at the end of the day, and now it's just banter, I still fucking, take the piss, but it's just banter now. I've got loads of friends who, into fermenting and they use tweezers and stuff like that, and it's cool, it is what it is, it's a great, any kind of food cooked with passion and love is great, and I can see, I see that now, whereas before, it was just me being a bit of a knob about it all, really. But like I said, I won't stop making the odd dig at green oil and tweezers, but it's all banter, I'm deeply appreciative of any kind of food, to be honest. Especially some of the stuff that's coming out of the top end these days, it's just aesthetically, it's just fucking beautiful, some of the stuff that these guys are making, and they can't possibly put all those wildflowers on without using tweezers, obviously, it wouldn't be possible, and it's just stunning food. So me just going around bashing it was just it was a place that was in my life that I'm not there anymore, so it's all good. But yeah, I won't be, I'll just try and stay true to myself. I don't feel that I need to do anything else rather than what I actually want to do, which is classical French food. That's what I want to do, so that's what I'm going to do.
What does the name mean to you?
Well, it's reborn. It means everything, It's just it's just it's reborn. It's me reborn. It's the actual interior of the restaurant reborn. It's my food reborn. It's a fresh, it's a second chance at life for me, and it's a second chance to cook again in somewhere that I put 3 years of blood, sweat, and tears that almost killed me, and it's a chance to do it again the right way.
What would you say to, just for me, for young people coming into the industry now? Because obviously you talked about your journey, and it's a very different landscape, hospitality now, isn't it? So to when you came in, and we need, people are saying we need to encourage young people in. Do you think this industry can change quickly enough and to encourage people to keep coming?
I don't know where to go on this one, to be honest. Well, there's certain parts of the industry that aren't going to change. It's going to be long hours and it's going to be hard graft. And if people don't want to do that, you can't, financially, you can't have two teams in every kitchen to work. One does lunch, one does dinner. It just doesn't, unless people are willing to pay double for the amount of food that they're going to have, then, that's just not possible. Obviously, I think, in France, they've got a lot less working hours and stuff like that now. I mean, obviously it can change, but at the end of the day, it's still going to be hard graft. Obviously, the environment can change. What I would say to young people coming into the industry was just, I don't know. Obviously, I was brought up a certain way, and I was schooled a certain way. And, it was tough. It was hard work, And, I got a bit of flack, which, I probably deserved because I was a cocky little shit, But I mean, if you'd love to do this, find somewhere where you enjoy the food, and just be willing to put the work in. There's a lot of stuff going around at the moment, and it is, some of it is definitely needed. Some of it is very necessary. I think, obviously a lot to do with training and a lot to do with colleges, and there's, I think apprenticeships would be much more useful if people actually got paid for training. Obviously there are apprenticeships around for chefing. That could be, in my opinion, it'd be much better to go and work in a kitchen and crack it out from there, but yeah, so yeah, it's just get your head down and crack on, and don't feel like, it's, at the end of the day, it is just food, it is just food. But if you love to do it, then follow it, and it can take you, it's hard, but any industry, if you want to work as a banker, you still need to be, these city boys do loads and loads of hours, so yeah, you just need to get on with it,
Alex, it's something we've discussed quite a lot, isn't it?
Yeah, I think I think it's that contradiction that I think it's an amazing job, and I think it gives opportunities that a lot of young people who are making important career choices just don't know about. I think I'd echo Dom that I'm not sure how well served colleges and those sort of places are. I think there's still such a disconnect between the teaching environment and the reality of the industry. And I think that needs to change. But I mean, I don't know. I think, the biggest thing I take away from like listening to Dom's story today is doing it because there's a sense of purpose. I don't think this is an industry to go into if you don't love it. If you don't love it, if there isn't a reason why, I personally would rather we do, 50% of the people who currently enter the industry because we only take people who want to do it. Because there's no way to make it, there's no way to make it totally free of stress or hard work. Even with improvements that I think are needed, are coming, you have to love it. There has to be some sort of passion there. And I guess those of us who've already done it, we can only try and signpost the pitfalls, signpost the traps, the mistakes, with the hope that, every generation coming up, it's a little bit better for them and they don't keep that cycle going forward. Preserve the recipes, right? But don't necessarily preserve the other bits of kind of restaurant culture that don't really serve anyone.
Well, I spoke to a chef the other day that said that the kind of, this is maybe like a short-term pain for hopefully like a long-term gain. Is that something that you maybe agree with, that maybe the industry just needed to go through this to get to a better place?
I think I do. I think there is a perfect storm. I think trying to mobilize any significant kind of change alongside just survival is always going to feel pretty spicy. It's not easy. We're kind of in the midst of doing like loads of changes there, and you do have weeks where you just sort of think there isn't solid ground, right? There isn't solid ground beneath your feet because you're trying to change everything, and it will still take time. But I don't know, for me, I'm kind of obsessed with the idea of sustainability needs to stop thinking about like using an organic lettuce. Sustainability needs to really extend to all areas of it. What can we do to make sure that chefs, actually live happy, fulfilled lives? What can we do to make sure they stay in the industry? What can we do to make sure that our teams are still with us in 2 years? Sustainability goes deeper than where you source your cauliflower, for me personally.
I suppose a positive to come out of the past 18 months is kind of a wake-up call that's been around the edges, hasn't it, for a long time, but maybe now it's something that's unavoidable.
Yeah, for sure. And I think that will only continue. Over the next 2 years, it will become, whether it's guest expectation, whether it's statutory, whatever it is, a lot of the changes that are kind of coming in, you won't have a choice. So I guess, it's as good a time as any to kind of start to do, to do what we can now. Well,
Dom, thank you so much for joining us. I've really enjoyed talking to you, and thanks again for being so honest. And congratulations again, because it's an amazing achievement. Unless you're in it, I suppose you don't realise how hard it is to take that first step and get to the point where you are now. So good luck keeping moving that forward, and hopefully even just one person listening to this, we can help them onto the same road as yourself. So thanks so much for being honest.
Thank you so much for letting me waffle on. It's been great.
No, I really enjoyed it. So thank you, Dom. Been a pleasure. Alex, I will chat to you again soon. You're stuck with me for another 5 episodes. And yeah, so thank you both. And I shall speak to you soon.
Take care,
Thank you
guys.
so much. Take care.